So this is the Nitro Deck controller for Nintendo Switch. It has been around for a little while now, and I know there's a lot of reviews out there already, but I already owned this one, which I have got a review on my channel for, which is the RetroFlag controller. When this came along, I just felt like it was a little bit too similar to this one for it to be worth my time and money, because it was really expensive. However, recently the price has dropped to a point where I feel like I can take the plunge and try one out. I got this limited edition version, which comes with a carry case and a whole load of other bits, for under £50. I think prices for this particular model have dropped more than others. There's a purple version, which is more similar to your GameCube, which still costs about £30 more, but I quite like the mint green, to be honest, now I've got my hands on it. So now I have got my hands on one, and it is kind of similar to a controller I already own. Was it worth it? Let's take a look. So this is the Nitro Deck for Nintendo Switch. This has been out for a while, but I resisted buying it because I've got what I felt was pretty much the same thing in this RetroFlag controller. So when it was announced, there was a lot of excitement about this. There's loads of videos out there about it already, so now I'm just adding another one. But from my perspective, it just felt like it didn't really offer anything specifically different to warrant buying another one of these kind of housing style controllers. But there's a couple of reasons why I've ended up relenting and picking one up today. First of all, it's cheaper. It was quite expensive on release. This is like the limited edition version that comes with a carry case and things, and it is now available for less than £50 in Argos in the UK. I bought the RetroFlag controller for just over that originally, so it's fair to say that they now balance out. Also, and more importantly for me, is that since its release, this has had firmware update support. The downside of that is I'm going to have to find a Windows computer to do it, because you can't do it on a Mac. But the fact that it is having after-sales support and it is being gradually improved is enough for me to invest in it. Also, there's always going to be that curiosity, isn't there? Let's take a little look at the back of the box, and you can see what it does do differently. You can remove the thumbsticks, or it's just toppers to go on the thumbstick. I'm not entirely sure. It comes with a carry case, which is quite nice, because obviously with something as big as this, the Switch carry cases won't work. It's too big. So to come with a specific carry case is good. If you look at the back, it's got a lot more going for it. This doesn't have a kickstand or anything like that. Meanwhile, this has got mappable rear buttons and it's got a kickstand, so it does seem to offer maybe a bit more. It's got Hall effect joysticks, which is the same as the RetroFlag, ultra low latency, remappable back buttons, swappable thumbsticks, motion and vibration support. It's got a lot going for it. So here we are with the Nitro Deck, and we'll see if it's any good. So I'll do a quick unboxing first, and then I'll take it away, have a play with it, and come back and let you know what I think. It's a nice kind of premium touch from the off with the Spot UV finish on the front, the little holographic logo and the ribbon loop on top. It does feel like if I'd bought it for the full price, which I think was like £90 for this edition originally, it does feel like you've bought a premium product to this point. Again, it's got the holographic. I mean, this CR and then the upside down K and then a D. I'm assuming the brand name is Cracked. So I'm just going to go with that moving forward, but if I've got it wrong, just let me know in the comments. So we open up this way, bringing the lid up and over. Welcome to Nitro Deck, start here. So there's a QR code, again quite a glossy print on the inside there, but inside is all cardboard sustainable packaging, which I always like to see. It's actually inside its carry case at the moment, and in this cardboard, nearly lost it, in this cardboard section here is just the carry strap for the case. So it appears everything is inside the case itself. Right, let's see what we've got then. So it's a nice smooth zip with big pulls. And then in here, everything's actually in place, which is quite nice. So there's like a little flap which rests on the screen of the Switch, because of course you can carry it around not just as the controller, but with the Switch itself in there too. In here, we've got a really nice quality braided USB to USB-C cable. You've got your alternative thumbsticks, which have a slightly different pattern. Alternatively, the other ones have a more of a GameCube style grip to them, which I'll probably stick with. Then we've got a quick start link on a card. We've got the user guide. Important, remove before use. Before attaching the Switch to the Nitro Deck, open the Switch console settings and turn on Switch Pro controller wired connection. Now, I've already done that for it to work with my RetroFlag controller, so I don't need to worry about that. And this will need to be peeled off. Hopefully it is a smooth peel. I'm not going to leave too much. It's leaving a couple of little spots on the back in itself, which isn't a good start, is it? Yeah, it's left loads of marks. I'll see if I can kind of remove those. They're coming off. It's not the end of the world. But it is very annoying. Yeah, these marks are not coming off. So, I don't know, like, getting it with this massive sticker on the back that leaves a load of sticky residue behind, after all the effort that they've gone to give that sort of premium feel. I don't know why that label had to be quite that sticky. Right, let's keep going with this. It seems to be working. Let's see if I get anywhere with a microfiber cloth. This is infuriating. I think I might need a little bit of alcohol and hopefully it won't damage the plastic. Right, it's not perfect, but that'll have to do for now. How disappointing from something that was giving such good first impressions to then go and whack a great big sticker on it that leaves a load of residue. It makes no sense to me at all. Anyway, let's just put that to one side and comment on a few positives. It fits perfectly inside this case. It's not a cheap case. It's like molded to fit all the buttons of the controller. And as I said before, it's got the softer bit to cover up the screen of your Switch. It's good, it's nice, and it's got space for your spare games, for your cables and things to go. Really nicely designed, high quality piece of kit in terms of the case. And of course, we've got the clips there for the kind of shoulder carry strap. So the case is definitely a plus, and it was worth buying the more premium edition that came with it. So how it actually feels, the ergonomics, I actually quite like. It seems to feel pretty comfortable. The C-stick, the other joystick, the right joystick, is quite low down here. Just doing a quick comparison with this one, I think it's a little lower down. This feels quite comfortable to hold, and it is quite easy to access that. The A, B, X, Y buttons are much higher up on this one. The design of this is clearly intended to spend most of your time using the left joystick and the A, B, X, Y buttons. They're quite nice, kind of quite smooth feeling buttons. So first impressions, it does feel different enough to warrant having both, aside from the greed factor. I think this has got a nice big D-pad, again, that's higher up, so this lends itself a bit better to the versatility between the two. This one feels very much that you're mainly using the joystick and the buttons, and will occasionally shift your grip to use these. One thing I'm noticing though is that there's a slight recess here, so you can get your games out more easily. With this one, you have to slide it out from the back to be able to flip open the game card, which is a bit annoying. Let's just remove this from here. My main gripe with the RetroFlag unit when I first got it is it's got these metal clips to hold it in place, and those metal clips scratch the side of the Switch only a tiny bit, and it's the bit that's out of view, but still it's not nice, is it? Whereas this has got plastic retaining clips here, so hopefully we won't get as much damage. Although speaking of damage, and this is you know, I am not going to mention the sticker again, but the back surface is like a hard plastic, whereas on the RetroFlag one, it's a nice smooth foam layer that's stuck on there, which I really like. Now my Switch is the Pokemon one, so obviously I don't want any damage to come to the back of that, so I will be very careful when inserting it, and hopefully it won't cause any scratches or anything like that. Okay, it clicks into position very easily, it holds neatly in place, it looks nice in there. Yeah, so I'm gonna test it out, get it updated, go and have a play with it, and then feedback on what I think. But first impressions, it feels quite nice, and it feels like distinctly different to this one, so maybe I was okay being greedy and having both after all. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? Right, so I've had a good play with it, and it has got a few fingerprints on the screen, but thankfully it comes with a cleaning cloth, which is rather handy. So I'll just polish all these little fingerprints off the screen, and I'll explain why I've got all these huge fingerprints on the screen, and it is a bit of a drawback, which is a shame. I don't really plan to start with negative. In short, I really like this thing. I'm glad I picked it up, and there is a lot to like about it. There's a few things that I definitely feel like the RetroFlag controller does better. There's a few things that disappoint slightly, but on the whole, I'm really liking it. There's a lot to love about this thing. However, the fingerprints. So when you put it in and you dock it, you simply slide it in and push in from the top, and that is fine. But when you want to remove it, there is a little eject button, which I thought would push the Switch up a little bit. But when you push that up, what it does is it releases the catches. So on the RetroFlag, where it was like little sprung metal clips, this little catch on the back actually moves the plastic clips out of the way, so it undoes the lock. But then to lift it out, I can't work out any way of moving it out without getting my thumb slapped back in the middle and then sliding it up. And then it's got like these huge great thumbprints on it that I need to then polish off, which does my head in. So yeah, minor little gripe there, but it's not the end of the world. So if you look on here, when you move the little slider up, this slider here, there's these little plastic catches on the inside there, and when I move the slider up, they move in and out of the way. So you can actually use that for when you're sliding it back in again. So instead of having to feel like you're pushing it past those clips, you can move the clips in, lower the console in place, and then let go. And it locks really nicely. It's like it's really, really secure. There's no movement, no wiggle with that at all. A couple of little details that I quite like. There's these little cutouts here for the speakers, and the sound comes out pretty well through those. But having the bar across the bottom felt a little bit weird at first, because I was quite used to this, which is just the kind of handles at the side and then the gap here and this kind of strange little block in the middle. On this one, it seemed a little unusual to have this here, but after a while of playing it, it feels more like a self-contained console, having the continuity of the color going across the bottom. I think on pictures it looked a little odd, but in the flesh it looks quite nice. I've tried changing over the thumb grips. There's these additional ones which are like concave ones. It actually feels like you're breaking something when you swap them over, because you literally just pull them out and it kind of clicks out first to bring the dome shape towards the front, and then you pop that off. You literally have to pull it and it pops off and clips off. And then you put the other one back on. Now I think I prefer the ones that come with it as standard, but it's quite easy to swap them, and you can buy different replacement ones as well, but I think for now I'll be sticking with these two. I was actually considering swapping the yellow and the grey over, because I think I prefer this kind of concentric circle design for the grip rather than this sort of flat with one circle around it. Because I tend to find, like, in a heated gaming session, you get a bit sweaty, don't you? Your thumb ends up sliding off a little bit when you're trying to hold it in position, and I think the concentric circles would work a bit better. So yeah, you could even, if that bothers you, you could swap them round. The colour might bother you, but you know, in terms of practicality, that works. By contrast, this is much more like the GameCube one, where you've got like the C stick and the concentric circles on there. But the sticks on this are really good. Very, very smooth, very responsive. The buttons feel really premium. There's like no rattle to them. That smooth surface is actually really comfortable to play on. There's the kind of lit up home button, with more about that in a minute, and the D-pad's good as well. I wasn't sure if I'd like the D-pad as much, because the D-pad is a real strength of this. It's just like the Super Nintendo D-pad on this one, nice big chunky one. But this D-pad is great. It's smaller, but it's comfortable. It's really responsive. There's a nice little dip in the middle. It's comfortable to use. The positioning of them, I do think these are still a little bit too low down. You have to completely change how you're holding it. And the other thing about holding it is these mappable buttons on the back, which is a really cool feature to customize your games. I think sometimes if you're holding down here, it's really awkward to get to your shoulder buttons, so you can remap those as you in fact, the shoulders, the L and R, and the Z, L and Z are mapped by default to here. So if you're down here on these controls, instead of having to reach all the way up there, you can use those on the back, which is pretty cool. Although for me, when I was using it, I found that it bothered me a little bit, them being there. I was knocking them by accident. And just the feel of them, I don't know, I'm hypersensitive, so I'm one of those people who have to like cut all the labels out of all my t-shirts, and I can only wear certain socks because the seams bother me. I'm very sensitive to touch, and having these little buttons there did bother me a little bit. I think I would have preferred a smoother surface, but it's not that bad. And once I got used to it after a bit, it was fine. I couldn't see much reason for me in the games I play for using the remappable controls, so I had a bit of a play around. Now let's have a look. So I'm playing The Last Campfire at the moment. I was trying to find a game where I could have a good little wander around and just hold it for a while and see how it felt. It's taken a little bit of getting used to, but there's a lot to like about the ergonomics. There's a slightly textured surface on the back, slightly patterned raised surface for an extra little bit of grip, but it's quite smooth on the front, and that works quite nicely. The triggers are really nice to the grip as well. They're analog hall sensor triggers, you know, rather than on this one where they're just kind of buttons on an angle. This does feel more premium than this one. Like the build quality as you're holding it, it does feel like a more expensive piece of kit, and you know, without discount, it is a more expensive piece of kit, isn't it? But with these mappable controls, what I did was I played a bit of Fast RMX. So let's just load that. One of the things when it comes to racing is that you go over certain coloured platforms to get speed boosts, and you have to be blue or orange, and you swap between colours by touching X, which means you have to hold down your accelerator and kind of nudge across to go on X. So what I did was I remapped S1 and S3 button. I won't be actually bothering to race, but normally you'd press X to swap between colours, but when you're racing it's kind of awkward to reach up and do that, whereas now I can just tap on the back like that and it just swaps between them. So I'm just sort of tapping on those and then I can swap for the different colours. So that's just a reason for using the remappable buttons. So I'm sure there's a lot of games that people play that could really make use of these customizable controls. And even if it's stuff like if you've got, you know, if you've got an injured finger, like if this finger's injured and you're struggling to reach those buttons at the top, or if you've got any sort of disability, which means that, you know, if you've got one hand that's weaker than the other or issues with fingers and things, having the remappable controls is really good for inclusivity. So I think, although, yes, having them there is a bit of a bother for me, it's a really, really good feature. It's versatile, it's inclusive, it's progressive, it's something new, it's something different. So you see here the home button actually lights up, which is a kind of cool feature. However, what was bothering me was it was really bright, and also it has a lot of light leakage. If I just turn off my lamps so you can see, down around this entire area here, the whole shell lights up. Like there's a lot of this light escaping. And one of the things that happened with the firmware upgrade is it gives you lots of shortcuts to address things that might have been a bother to you. And in this case, you can press the little control button on the back. I forget what it's called and it's dark and I can't read it, so I'll check it in a minute. But when you press that repeatedly, it cycles through different levels of brightness. So you've got the brightest, then one down, then one down, and then off. Now, I kept setting it to off, but it does warn you, let's get my lights back on, that when you start to do things and activate the controller again, the light does come back on, but you can just dim it. So the button that you do all this with is the prog button on the back, which is what you use for your programming. To do various different things, you hold program and then you hold certain other buttons, and there's different button combos to change all sorts of things. So you can set these to whatever you want. You can change the brightness. You can change like the sensitivity of the analog triggers. You can disable the dead zone on the joysticks, which I tried out, and all of this is just through holding certain button combinations and changing them. I also changed the rumble settings. Now the rumble initially was quite harsh, and to be fair, that is one criticism I've always had of this one, that the rumble is a bit much, whereas with this you can change through different levels of rumble. You press and hold a certain combo. I think you press like the prog and the plus and hold that, or L and plus and hold it for a bit, and then This button flashes various different colors to let you know what's going on. You do need the manual handy when you're doing all that. It's certainly not easily memorable keyboard shortcuts, but the fact that you can do it, and the fact that they brought out an upgrade for it that they didn't have to do, and it sort of solves a lot of these issues, makes it a much more appealing prospect in that it gets rid of those issues, but also in terms of like future support, it's really encouraging. In terms of holding it, it has taken me a little while to get used to. Oh yeah, look, so this has got a kickstand on the back, which is kind of cool. It's not something that my RetroFlag one has got. That one does sort of stand up vertically, but it hasn't got the kickstand feature. But one of the things about the kickstand that's annoying, it's got like two little plastic clips here and two little bits that are supposed to catch on there, but when you push it down, it just kind of springs back out. It sort of won't sit flat unless you really push it from the top there, and it kind of clicks and locks in position. So if you're having trouble with it, then you know how to fix it, because it was bothering me. So this little symbol here, it's like an NFC contact, which is, I thought was going to be awesome for Amiibo, but it's not compatible with Amiibo, which is a shame, but never mind. This is so that you can register the console on the app, which I did, but to be fair, having had to go on the app, I wouldn't recommend it. I thought the app was going to enable me to sort of change a lot of the settings on the thing, but that's all done on the console itself. The app is more of a link to a website than anything else, and you can register your console on it, and it kind of builds them all based on you scanning the different things you buy. I think it's with a view to this becoming a bigger brand, and it's like a brand loyalty thing, and the more you buy, like with their controls and things like that, that you can keep uploading those to the app. But I don't think the app was particularly useful. When it came to the upgrade, that was really straightforward. You've got two USB connectors on the back, one input, one output. You connect that up, download an exe file, and you run that, and it just upgrades. It was dead straightforward. However, it's only Windows compatible. So if, like me, you use a Mac, you'll have to dig out an old Windows laptop or borrow one from someone to be able to do that. But when you can get that done, it was really straightforward. So that's the features, that's the practicality of it. It looks really nice. Everyone who's seen it so far just kind of goes, ooh, that looks lovely. I would have got the purple one, but it costs like £30 more. That one hasn't been reduced in price as much as the sort of mint green. But to be fair, I'm glad I got this one now. I mean, I've already got a controller that's got that kind of purple GameCube color scheme, so it's good to have something a little different. I don't think I own anything in this color, and it looks really smart, doesn't it? But that's pretty much weight wise, it's kind of heavy. I don't know how it compares to, let's just pop it out of here again. I don't like doing that, and also I worry about it scratching on the back. With it taken out of the back though, it doesn't seem to have left any marks or done any damage to the back of my console. Weight wise, there's not much in it. They're both about the same kind of weight. I think ultimately, if you've already got one of these, you don't really need one of these. And if you've already got one of these, you don't really need one of these. They both serve the same purpose. It's just really interesting to see what's done differently. There's not, for me, an outright winner. But if I could only choose one, see, I'm torn. I think this offers more for your money. I think you get more features. I think the upgrades are good. The fact that you can get those firmware upgrades, that we've got all these different shortcuts. The fact that it's got the remappable buttons, it's got the kickstand on the back, it's got a proper means of latching the console in place without causing it any damage. The fact it's got this little recess at the back so you can take your game cartridges out without having to remove the whole thing from there. The fact that it comes with this really, really nice quality carry case, because you can't get a carry case for the RetroFlag one, so that is definitely a plus. I think the buttons feel really premium, really solid. I like the smooth finish to them. I didn't expect to like them as much as I like these, but they actually do feel better than the ones on the RetroFlag to a large extent. What this one has to offer, I think the ergonomics are much, much more comfortable in terms of just holding the unit itself, in terms of where your thumbs fall, in terms of the positioning there, that these are a little more easily accessible than the ones on the Nitro Deck. The triggers are not as good on this. I think the triggers are much, much better on this one. They're bigger, they're more comfortable. You've got the Hall sensor analog control with those. It's more the shape of the unit itself. Don't get me wrong, it is comfortable to hold. and you know, being able to reach all the other buttons on it and things is fine. I just think that having that slight sloping angle on this one makes it a little bit more comfortable to grip and play for longer sessions. But I mean, really, they're both really nice pieces of kit. This one's got pass-through, so you can have your console docked and you can plug in there, and it's the same with this one. You can have it docked and you can plug in there. You can actually use this as a wired controller as well. You can put it into wired mode with another one of these little button shortcuts, and then you connect your USB cable here and you connect it to the Switch dock, and you can use it as a wired controller with the console docked, which you can't do with the RetroFlag one. Should I have bought this when I already own that one? Not really. Do I regret it? No, not at all. I really like this. It's exciting when people put some time and effort into developing new products. When this was first announced, I'll be honest, it felt like it was a bit of a rip-off of the RetroFlag. And I saw loads of hype about this and very little mention of the RetroFlag. So I thought in this video I wanted to make a point that this one did come along first. And I think that it's a really, really great piece of kit. I think this is a simpler piece of kit in a very positive respect. You know, you've got that, you slot the console in and away you go. This one is a little more elaborate. There's more to it. There's more fine tuning that you can get, and you'll know what works best for you. But I think in terms of for a general initial choice, where if you're thinking of buying one or the other, I've got to say, if you can get the Nitro Deck for a decent price, I think it offers an awful lot. You know, I was saying before about possibly scratching the back of the console. There's actually two smoother raised areas at either end, here and here. So there's not actually any physical contact with the back of your console against this part either. So, you know, that's something else to bear in mind. So you don't have to be pulling the eject button. You can just push it and it locks directly in place, and I can press L and R on my controller, and here we are. We can press A when we are ready. So let's have a go on a few more games. Right, let's see if we can get a kickflip nose slide on this rail. Having the analog triggers for the steering here is really, really nice. It feels like there's a lot of control there. And the actual analog sticks for like the flip tricks and things work really well, very consistent. I'd say it feels very much like the Pro controller, if not even better. I think having the Hall sensor sticks is something that's really encouraging for long-term use as well. It's not going to end up drifting over time, or at least it's less likely to end up drifting over time. So although this will control with the analog stick, and actually it's pretty good controlling with the analog stick, if you've enabled the lack of a dead zone, you get a lot of precision on games like this, which works really well. But the reason I loaded this up was to test out the D-pad and see how that feels. Now you do have to move your hand, you have to kind of change your hand position a little bit, which isn't that convenient really, but to be fair, like the shape of the console, it is comfortable to hold down here as well. It doesn't feel like you're compromised. You just move in position, and I think that the shape of the shell has been designed so that it feels comfortable even when you're holding it from various different angles and different positions. It's not just like a one position hold, which is what the RetroFlag is a bit more like, and it's something that I've grown to appreciate with the Nitro Deck over the space of time I've been playing on it, is that although at first it feels like a less conventional shape ergonomically and a bit less instant in terms of you just picking it up and it feeling comfortable, if you do have to hold it differently to get to certain buttons and things like that, it is comfortable from a range of different angles. So you can see, I mean, playing here, the D-pad is comfortable to hold. It's really responsive. It's just a bit low down. I do wish it was a little bit higher up. But if it's a game where you are using the D-pad frequently, I think just holding it in a different position is fine. And as I said before, if you've got something where you need to reach the D-pad and these shoulder buttons, that would be a bit annoying, and that is where these buttons on the back would come in really handy. Like if you look how I'm holding that there, and where my fingers naturally fall. It's almost like you've got two control schemes. You've got up here and you've got down here. So those remappable buttons are very handy for if you feel like you are a little far away from those shoulder buttons. Certainly a step up from the Joy-Cons. Definitely feels a million times better than the Joy-Cons. I think it's just because I'm so used to the RetroFlag controller that this felt a little strange at first, but the more I play on it, the more I'm enjoying it. I certainly like, because of the weight of it, if you let go of one end like that, you will inevitably accidentally touch one of the trigger buttons on the back, but that again is probably just something to get used to. Let's go on Banana Cup because I've not done that yet. Again, having the dead sound turned off makes it really responsive. I'm not having any issues using the triggers on top, but again, you can remap those to the rear buttons and use those instead of your fingers at the top. You can just kind of press onto the back depending on how you prefer to hold the controller, which is pretty good. Games like this where you've got to keep the A button held for a long period of time, the A and B buttons on the RetroFlag have a slightly harder edge. And on this, they are smoother. They haven't got the indented text on them, and they are a lot more comfortable for holding them down for extended periods of time, which is definitely a good thing. I thought they looked a little bit uninspired compared to the RetroFlag ones originally, because the RetroFlag ones are a little bit bigger. They look a bit more like the GameCube buttons, and I love the GameCube buttons. But to be fair, they're nice. I like them. So aside from getting off on the wrong foot with that awful sticker, I've no idea what they were doing putting that on there. I really like this thing. I've spent all day playing on it and testing it out, and I've really enjoyed using it. It did take a bit getting used to, but I think that is more to do with the subtle differences between the one I was already used to, rather than issues with the design of this one. I think the fact that it did have some shortcomings that the company have actually addressed with a firmware update is really encouraging, and I think it's nice to be able to support a company that support the players like that. I think, to be honest, if you bought yourself one of the RetroFlag controllers or you bought yourself one of these Nitro Decks, I don't think you can go far wrong. I think they're both excellent controllers. I was quite surprised when I originally did my review of the RetroFlag controller. I thought I was being fussy with the fact that those two little catches scratched the side of the console a bit, but there was quite a big reaction from my viewers about the fact that that would put them off buying one. Now, if you were on the fence about buying one of the RetroFlag controllers, but that put you off, well, here you've got something to take its place, and it will do the job really, really well. I think having got the deluxe edition that's got that carry case with it, I'm really happy with that. I looked on their website and the carry case itself is £30. So, you know, if I was going by that logic, I've got the controller for 20 quid, which is pretty good. I think the fact that I've got that whole self-contained carry case for it makes it a much more enticing offer if you were thinking about getting one or the other. So not really an in-depth review. There are plenty of those out on the internet already. Same goes with the guides of how to use it. But in terms of just first hands-on impressions and a couple of things that maybe I hadn't seen reported on, I wanted to make sure I included them. I mean, it's like many things on this channel. If I get a new toy and I'm enjoying playing with it, I want to share it with you all, don't I? So that is it from me for now. If you want to support this channel, leave a like, leave comments, subscribe to my channel, and also if you want to buy yourself any cool stuff from the Z Labs website, use my affiliate link in the description and you can get yourself a bit of money saved and you can support my channel. So while I am really impressed with the Nitro Deck, in fact much more than I expected to be, which is a relief when you've dropped 50 quid on something, isn't it? I am still a big fan of the RetroFlag controller and I have no regrets about buying that one. If you want to find out more about that controller, I've made a whole video about it. There's a link popping up for it here. Go and give that a watch when you've finished with this one. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye.